The BMW Race Days Compact Cup is brought to you in association with Gaz Shocks.
Hello and welcome to Donington Park for the 5th meeting of the BRSCC BMW Race Days Compact Cup. It's currently dry, but rain is threatened before the end of play today, so the championship could be thrown wide open. I'm here in the paddock though, before the race goes out, with John Watt, currently sitting at 3rd in the championship, and I understand you qualified 5th, John. What are your hopes and expectations for the race and the weather?
Well, I'm looking up at the sky. Obviously we've got about an hour to go before our race and rain is threatening. Time's going very, very slowly. I've seen Mamma Mia, so I know. But I'm looking forward to a dry race.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you and hopefully be talking to you again after the race on a podium position.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed our little chat after Castle Combe. Love to be on the podium and I'd love to be there again.
All right, well, best of luck. And now I'm going to hand you straight over to Andy McEwen for a lineup of the full grid for the race.
Well, thanks, Rachel. And yes, it is a packed grid. 40 cars on the grid for this one. And here's how they line up for race 1. Richard Miles gets the pole position ahead of Joe Wiggin in 2nd. Row 2 for James Gordon and Steve Daly. And row 3, John Watt and Ian Jones. Row 4 for Craig Jameson and Sam Carrington-Yates, with Simon Walker-Hansel and Neil Roach on row 5. Row 6 for Jim Benson and Darren Ball. But drama already. Richard Miles is not going to take the start. We believe he's got some electrical issues with that car. So that leaves Joe Wiggin all on his own on the front row of the grid. And he gets a good start from the outside of the front row. Net pole position essentially, but it's an even better start by the look of it for Steve Daly in 4th place. He gets across to the inside line, doesn't quite manage to take the race lead, but he will take 2nd, so it's going to be Wiggin from Daly from Gornall, the top 3, side by side for 4th then between John Watt and Ian Jones. And there are 2 cars to watch out for, number 47 Owen Hunter and number 43 Declan McDonald, both of whom had issues in qualifying, and they started 17th and 19th respectively, but they both won races this year and are both well and truly in the thick of the championship fight, so watch for them to move forward. Side by side action through the Craner curves on lap 1. It always gets a bit feisty, and Craig Jameson and Simon Walker-Hansel, get a bit close for comfort, trade a bit of paint. That allows Jim Benson around the outside of Craig Jameson. Craig qualified 7th but didn't make a great start, and so he's already stuck in the midfield fights. Neil Roach trying to go around the outside of him now. There goes Declan McDonald and James Nutbrown further back as well, who appears to be a little off the pace. Up through Swant's curve and into McLean's again. Darren Ball goes around the outside of Craig Jameson. That won't work though, and Jack Drury's in behind too. In these early laps you daren't really run offline because you risk opening the door for cars behind to filter through. Down the exhibition straight we come for the first time already. The top 3 starting to get away then. Wiggin from Daly from Gornall. Watt in 4th place, thinking here about defending from Ian Jones, I think, but Ian, I'm not sure, is close enough to really launch an attack. Onto the brakes into the chicane. Oh, Simon Walker-Hansel's close enough to attack Sam Carrington-Yates, though. He goes up the inside of the blue and white machine and snatches the place away. Nice move that on the brakes into the final chicane, the Robert chicane. Here on the short of the 2 layouts at Donington Park, the national circuit always produces great racing though. Nice wide circuit, as you can see, plenty of different lines you can take into the various corners, and by defending you really hold the group of cars behind you up, and that's what John Watt seems to be doing now. James Nutbrown rejoining from the pit lane. He has had issues with that car, and so he is now a couple of laps down through Redgate again. Neil Roach gets eased out over the grass on the exit of the corner. Through Hollywood, down through the Craner curves, and is Ian Jones going to be able to make a move here on John Watt? I'd say he's quicker at this stage of the race than John is, but that's partly because John is focusing more in his mirrors than he is out of his windscreen. He's got no one in front of him to attack, but he's got a whole queue of cars behind him trying to find a way past. Neil Roach there in number 81 with the orange wheels flashes through. Always in the thick of the action is Neil. Craig Jameson trying to make up from that slightly tardy start. Leading trio though have really pulled a big gap already over this train behind them. Through McLean's, and John Watt defending through there. He's not that quick off the corner as a result, so he has to go over to the inside line again to defend from Ian Jones. Ian Jones will take a wide line in and try and cut underneath him on the exit of the corner, and he judges it perfectly. Ian Jones going for 4th place here then, gets a good run out of Coppers. We wait for them to come into view. There they are. He's up the inside, now he just needs to be late enough on the brakes into the chicane. He should make this move stick. Jones then on the inside, Watt on the outside. Neil Roach almost pushing Ian Jones down the back straight. He's trying to follow him through as well. On the brakes we go. road. Jones goes through. Can Neil Roach manage to find a way through as well? They're wheel to wheel through a part of the circuit. You can't really run wheel to wheel, but Neil Roach keeps coming round the outside and goes through. That now risks leaving John Watt hung out to dry, as meanwhile for second place, James Gornall goes through on the inside of Steve Daly. Daly, though, tries to execute the switchback manoeuvre on the exit of Redgate corner. They're wheel to wheel back through Hollywood. This is a part of the circuit again that you really have your heart in your mouth when you see cars running side by side, but Daly, I think, has gone back through. Meanwhile, what's going on for fourth? It's Jones, but now ahead of Simon Walker-Hansel in fifth, with Benson sixth. It's all changed again at Redgate. Sam Carrington-Yates is seventh, eighth place Owen Hunter, ninth for John Watt, and 10th looks to be Craig Jameson, with Darren Ball and Declan McDonald not far behind. So both Hunter and McDonald making good progress. Steve Daly has indeed got back ahead of James Gornall. David May, though, is going nowhere. He's stuck in the gravel trap at Redgate and is not too pleased about that. How he got there, I don't know. His race appears to be done. Through McLean's we go, and Ian Jones has now got Owen Hunter right in behind him, with Jim Benson trying to go around the outside. Sam Carrington-Yates as well into the braking zone. Oh no, there's not a gap up the middle there, Sam, and sensibly backed out of that one, but he'll certainly pick one place, or maybe even two, because Owen Hunter gets eased out wide as well. So Carrington-Yates could gain 2 places in one corner here. Out of Coppice we go, back down towards the Robert chicane. Inside line for the white and blue car, that's Carrington-Yates. The black and red on the outside is Owen Hunter. Behind them, we've got John Watt and Jim Benson side by side as well. Side by side all the way through the field, it seems. This is the battle over fifth as they turn through the right-hander, and Carrington-Yates goes through. Hunter's out wide over the grass, keeps his foot in it though. Brilliant car control there from Owen, and he manages not only to keep the place, but actually to carry good momentum off the corner, so he shouldn't have to defend down into Redgate. Wheel to wheel here between Watt and Benson still as we turn into the right-hander. We've got Darren Ball in there, Simon Walker-Hansel as well. Jack Drury's not far back. Benson just gets eased out a bit wide, but not as wide as Jack Drury, who almost loses it and somehow gets himself back onto the road. So 6 breathless laps completed. The top 3 getting away from this almighty scrap for fourth between Jones, Carrington-Yates, Hunter, Benson, Watt, Ball, Walker-Hansel, McDonald, Jameson, and even a couple more. Jack Drury's in there as well, isn't he, with Giles Dawson. So a good 8 or 9 cars all fighting over the lower top 10 positions, and they're all changing pretty much by the corner. Back up towards Schwantz again for the 7th time, and there is Sam Carrington-Yates turning his way through McLean's. Oh, a spin further back. That looks as though it's Peter Dell, unfortunately. The MGM Cars Limited sponsored machine has had a rotation at the old hairpin, rejoining though with no visible damage done to the car, so his race can continue, albeit having lost several positions. Back with Joe Wiggin, meanwhile. Easy to forget about him, isn't it? He's a country mile ahead of the rest of the field. He's got a good gap now over Steve Daly in second. Joe Wiggin got his first win of the season back at Snetterton a couple of rounds ago. Through Schwantz comes this battle further down the order. The number 13 machine there of Nick Hawes making some good ground. The blue and yellow is Daniel Devereaux. We've got the number 70 car, Mark Armstrong, in there as well, the blue and orange. And they make their way through McLean's. Number 23 is Graham Kersley, by the way, the silver machine. So a good 4-way scrap here. Some way down the order. They're fighting sort of outside the top 15, but the battling, this just goes to prove the point, doesn't it? The fights are just as intense wherever you look in the field. Speaking of intense, this is side by side through the grainer curves between Sam Carrington-Yates and John Watt. And John Watt goes through in number 34, but then almost throws it away at the very next corner. A corner which has a car in the gravel trap on the outside. That's Jack Drury, I think. One of the Drurys. Yes, sorry, it's Steve Drury, excuse me, who's in the gravel trap. Jack Drury's still driving round, so Pat Marker just about gets out of the way of this group as well, which has now been caught by Simon Walker-Hansel. He's back up the inside at McLean's, goes up the inside of John Watt, whose car is getting more and more leery with every corner, it would seem. He's now got Declan McDonald right behind us. Declan also has made his way into the top 10 in the Mack Attack racing car. Further back down the order, here's the Daniel Devereaux battle, and he just gets into the side of Mark Armstrong slightly there. Armstrong gets edged out wide. Graham Kersley will therefore try and find a way through. Devereaux in the Heart Attack racing machine. Now closing in on Nick Hawes in the the dark blue number 13 machine, both those cars with novice crosses on the back of them. And then here are some more fights. Craig Jameson's doing battle here with, by the look of it, well, Neil Roach is in there. You can definitely see him, can't we, as he's slithering and sliding his way around. Darren Ball is all out of shape coming out of the corner as well. And just up the road, this is all going on as well. This is Simon Walker-Hansel in 6th with Declan McDonald right behind him. So Owen Hunter's got as high as 4th place from 17th, and McDonald is now into 7th place and going for a top 6. So it's been a remarkable remarkable race so far. We're on to the final lap of the race. Now, Joe Wiggin is leading the way, but I didn't see Steve Daly behind him. I think James Gornall's into second place, and there was no sign there, seemingly, of Stephen Daly. So the Scotsman appears to have disappeared. This might tell us why. He's been off up at Coppice. Steve Daly been off up at Coppice through the gravel trap. That's a rare mistake. You imagine maybe something went wrong with the car there. Stephen was in a comfortable second place, and unfortunately, it's all gone to pot. He now drops well out of the top 20. So Joe Wiggin makes his way back down towards the Robert chicane for the final time. He's had his windscreen wipers on for most of the race, but I don't think it's raining at all, certainly not that hard. But the Macatak Racing car is going to come through and take its second victory of the season. Joe Wiggin comes through and sees the checkered flag. He wins race number 1 of the day here at Donington Park. James Gornall will inherit second position after Steve Daly's issues. What's going on for what is now the third place battle? Well, there's Owen Hunter and there's Ian Jones, who I think has just skipped the chicane. He will give the place back to Owen Hunter, which means that Owen on the last corner moves through to third position from 17th on the grid. Jones is 4th, Simon Walker-Hansel's 5th, and Declan McDonnell is 6th from 19th, so both of them did make great progress up through the order. Carrington Yates 7th, John Watt is 8th, Jim Benson 9th, and Jack Drury in 10th, but no one could catch Joe Wiggin. Joe Wiggin took the victory in the end by over 5.5 seconds. A great win, and that really does his championship chances the world of good. There is confirmation of the result. Joe also took the fastest lap on the third lap of the race. Gornall second, Hunter, Jones, Walker-Hansel, then McDonnell, Carrington Yates, Watt, Benson and Jack Drury round out the top 10. Craig Jameson, Neil Roach, Giles Dawson, Darren Ball and James Winstanley makes a welcome return to the championship in 15th ahead of Harry Ross and the rest. And then the field continues to run through. Aaron Morgan there down in 26th position. Steve Daly was classified but only 29th, but he will get some points. And we lost Steve Drury, Rory Clark, David May, Richard Miles and Mark Skeets.
I was a bit nervous, really, as you'd expect, but I looked in the mirror and I was sort of just trying to control the gap. I knew I had the pace to go away if they came near, and unlike Stephen Daly, I just settled for it, really. I knew he was coming, but then sometimes I'd get away from him. But the team had put a great setup on AEW Transport, which when the rain came, which we sort of anticipated a bit, it meant that I could just still carry on driving the way I wanted to.
Well, after a truly breathless race 1, what does race 2 have in store for us? Join us after the break to find out. Hello and welcome back to Donington Park. Race 2 is on its way shortly, but first let's catch up with Stephen Daly and find out just what happened to him in race 1.
Race 1 there, we were sitting second place, 3 laps to go, the brakes totally failed on us, pedal hit the floor. It was just unfortunate for that race. It's motorsport, so that kind of thing happens. We've got another race to go, we're sitting third, so we're hoping for better results in the second race. But in terms of the championship, it's put a serious dent in our championship. But we're still hopeful, we're still happy, and we're still going to be coming down and doing the other round, so happy days.
Well, let's take a look at the grid then. Richard Miles will start from pole position this time with Joe Wiggin race 1 winner alongside. Steve Daly and James Gornall make up row 2 with John Watt and Sam Carrington Yates on the third row. Ian Jones and Simon Walker-Hansel are on row 4. Jim Benson and Craig Jameson row 5. Neil Roach and Darren Ball on row 6. Other drivers to watch out for though. Owen Hunter is only 17th, James Nutbrown is 19th, he should move forward, and Declan McDonnell is way at the back, 40th and last. Well, away we go then, and from pole position Richard Miles doesn't get a great start, so for the second race in succession, Joe Wiggin it is who will snatch the lead on the run up towards Redgate Corner with, just as it was in race 1, Steve Daly shadowing his every move, side by side for third between Miles and Gornall, then 3 abreast further back. Does everyone get through safe? There's plenty of locking up, a few cars surely will run a little bit wide on the exit of the corner. Actually, they all keep it fairly neat and tidy, and it is those top 2 getting away then. Wiggin from Daly, still side by side for third between Gornall and pole sitter Richard Miles. Down the hill they come, then it's John Watt. There's Ian Jones getting edged out wide. He's trying to get up the inside there of Sam Carrington Yates through the old hairpin. Well, race 1 was breathless enough. Race 2 looks set to continue that theme, doesn't it? Through Starkeys we go, and the whole 40-car field winding their way around the Donington Park National Circuit. I mentioned Declan McDonnell. He's at the back of the grid because the grid for this second race was decided by the second fastest lap times of each driver in qualifying. Well, Declan only did 1 lap, so he has to start right at the back. He really has work to do, but he got into the top 10 in race 1. On board with Neil Roach here, Darren Ball and Craig Jameson by the look of it in front of him. Craig Jameson, one of the Raw Motorsport cars, tries to get a good run out of the corner, but he's got Hill Roach almost tapping Morse code onto the rear bumper of his car down the straight. So Wiggin from Daly, the top two, then 3 cars fighting over third. That's Gornall, Miles and Watt. Ian Jones is a bit lonely in 6th. 7th place is Simon Walker-Hansel. 8th, Carrington Yates. 9th, Jim Benson, who's sideways, and Craig Jameson is in 10th place. The rest of them filing through. There is Declan McDonald. Declan McDonald's already passed about 10 cars, I reckon, before the completion of lap 1, so he is making progress again. Across the line we go. The lead gap officially 0.3 of a second between Joe Wiggin and Stephen Daly. Here are the fights just outside the top 10 starting to wind their way into view. Owen Hunter is part of that, having started 17th. Through the right-hander at Redgate Corner, there's Aaron Morgan in car number 7, working his way through, having a good run here at Donington. Through Hollywood, back down through the Craner curves for the second time of asking. And onto the brakes, into the old hairpin. Neil Roach very sideways indeed as he tries to hurl the car through with as much mid-corner speed as possible. These are not the most powerful of cars, so carrying mid-corner momentum is absolutely vital to a good lap time and to ultimately a good race result. And that's why the cars are often right on the limits of a decent through the corners as the drivers try and get the most out of them. Darren Ball there getting the most out of the track limits as well, isn't he, as he drifts a bit wide out of McLean's. Up towards Coppice again, on ball with Roach still. Clobbers the curb over the apex there, but Darren Ball in front of him runs a bit wide. That might give Neil a chance to attack down the straight. Leaders are approaching the chicane again, and here comes Richard Miles for 3rd place, looking up the inside of James Gornall. Is he close enough to make the move stick? No, Gornall just late enough on the brakes, but he outbrakes himself, and James Gornall hops and skips over the curb and will lose not only 1 place, but 2, maybe even 3, because John Watt's gone through, and Ian Jones is carrying good momentum down the straight as well, so a costly mistake that from Gornall. Richard Miles, though, I noticed, also went over the curbs a bit, so he too is a bit slow down the straight, and has got John Watt trying to go around the outside of him. Through the right-hander at the first corner they go, and the battling is intense as you would expect. Wiggin and Daly getting away from it all now, though, at the top 2 positions. Miles in 3rd. Oh, and Darren Ball unfortunately gets tapped into a spin coming through Redgate Corner. That looked like it was Simon Walker-Hansel who got into the back of him, and Darren Ball unfortunately finds himself plummeting down the order. There is Simon Walker-Hansel after that little skirmish he had. Oh, and it's all getting very dicey again. Well, Richard Miles is now right in the thick of this battle, isn't he? He goes up the inside of the pair of them, but then Sam Carrington Yates and Jim Benson go up the inside. So fantastic racing, but it's all a little bit scrappy for Richard Miles at the moment, who I'm sure will be determined to try and get himself a race win. His championship chances are pretty much over now after that non-start in race number 1, so he now really has to look for race wins and podiums just to try and salvage something from the second half of his season, but it's not going the right way here at Donington. He's back up the inside of Benson now, though, into Coppice. Through the right-hander he goes. He'll edge Jim Benson out wide towards the edge of the track, and does indeed go through. Sun's shining down here in the late afternoon at Donington Park, and it's a fantastic setting for motorsport, isn't it? It does produce great racing, and we've seen that in both of these Compact Cup races this weekend. Jim Benson there defending from Craig Jameson, who thought about going to the inside, just feinted to driver's right. Neil Roach is sideways. Now it's his turn to go through the gravel trap and somehow saves the car. I thought for a moment he was going to be pointing the wrong way there and getting beached, but he keeps his foot in it. Displays some more great car controls as we've come to expect from Neil this year, and drops in at the back of that group, just behind Mark Skeets by the look of it. He's having another solid run here this weekend in the yellow number 57 car. There's Owen Hunter. So Owen Hunter from 17th on the grid is inside the top 10. Here's a replay of what happened to Neil Roach. Just carried a bit too much speed into the corner, lost the rear of the car. Great car control, and wait for it. Yeah, there it is. There's always some sort of gesticulation from Neil, isn't there, when something exciting happens, which is always. Right, this is exciting as well. 3 abreast down towards the Robert chicane with John Watt, Ian Jones and James Gornall, and this time it's Ian Jones who takes to the gravel trap, just as he did on the last lap of race number 1, and John Watt also runs wide, so James Gornall, having briefly lost 2 positions, then gains them both straight back again on the exit of the corner. Leaders are just negotiating a bit of lappery there. That's Martin Gadsby in the number 9 machine, who gets out of the way nicely of Joe Wiggins. Steve Daly has to then fight his way through on the run through Hollywood. Down the hill they go. Ian Jones is 3rd place now, then Gornall 4th and Watt 5th, with Miles 6th, Carrington Yates 7th, Benson 8th, Jameson 9th, and Owen Hunter is rounding out the top 10 at the moment. And I'm looking down towards where Declan McDonald might be. He's not yet troubling the top 15, is he? So he's making good progress, but not quite as good as he did in race 1. course, he's had to come from a lot further back in this race, though, 40th on the grid as opposed to 19th in the first race for Declan, but it's not really helping his championship chances, this. Up through Swans Curve comes Richard Miles, trying to find a way past John Watt, who's been a very consistent finisher thus far, has John. Continuing that trend here at Donington. Miles, though, goes right around the outside of him. That was really good racing from Richard. James Gornall up into Coppice Corner. But just behind them, what happened? Yes, Miles managed to go through. So fantastic racing between those little group of cars. Here's the Mack Attack racing machine of Joe Wiggin, a bit scrappy there through the chicane, but Steve Daly doesn't take full advantage of that as they rush towards the start-finish line. Pit boards held out for both the leading two drivers. Steve Daly just happy to still be here in one piece, I think, after his dramatic brake failure in race number 1. Ian Jones still third, Gornall fourth, and fifth looks to still be Richard Miles. Then you've got this huge gaggle of cars further back as onto the grass goes Owen Hunter. Owen Hunter passing about 2 or 3 cars on the grass there down the pit straight towards Redgate Corner, one of which was a back marker, but that was still some great driving there from Owen. He loses out again, though, as he comes into Redgate Corner. It changes by the second in the midfield, doesn't it? And certainly towards the back end of the top 10, the fighting is so frenetic that corner by corner positions are changing. Down through the Craner curves we go again on the 9th lap of the race. First race we got 11 laps in, so we're approaching the latter stages now of this one. About a lap and a half we reckon to go. John Watt through the old hairpin. Owen Hunter still stuck in behind him in the slipstream now towards Schwantz and McLean's. And John Watt goes to the inside, Owen Hunter goes to the outside, John Watt thinks about it, no way through, and by going up the inside on the way into the corner, he loses momentum on the exit, and Owen Hunter saw a gap on the inside. They maybe just traded a bit of paint then, but with John Watt going in on a tight line to McLean's, it might open the opportunity up on the exit of the corner for another attack from Owen Hunter. Joe Wiggin, though, well, could be about to become the first man to do the double, to win 2 races on the same weekend in the 2016 BMW Race Days Compact Cup. He comes through to complete another lap and go on to what we think might be the final lap of the race. And John Watt is in the gravel trap, so that battle, well, you sort of felt it might go wrong at some point, and it has, unfortunately, for John Watt. Let's see what happens. Oh, well, it all gets very close. I think that's Craig Jameson who eventually gets into the side of him. Neil Roach almost follows them both into the gravel trap, but Craig Jameson, unfortunately, tags John Watt into a spin. It was just a racing incident, I think, but it was all very, very close indeed, and John's race, sadly, is over. So, having said he was a consistent point scorer earlier on, but he's not going to score any points in this one. We are indeed now on to the final lap. Some good battles still going on there. Simon Welch in the 76 machine, but here comes Joe Wiggin. Joe Wiggin comes across the start-finish line, and he is going to do it. He does the double here at Donington Park. The Mack Attack Racing squad will be happy. Steve Daly salvages something from the weekend in second place, and then the long wait begins for the fight for third place to appear into our sight, and it is going to be Ian Jones who takes it. That's a back marker getting out of the way, so Ian Jones is third. James Gornall is just about going to hang on to fourth position with Richard Miles in fifth. Sam Carrington-Yates is sixth, Jim Benson is seventh, Owen Hunter is eighth, Simon Walker-Hansel ninth, and Neil Roach in 10th. There is confirmation of that result. Sam Carrington-Yates, incidentally, was given a 10-second penalty for jumping the start, so that's why he's down in 6th place. Joe Wiggin, once again, got the fastest lap. Outside the top 10, Mark Skeets, James Nutbrown, Steve Drury, Giles Dawson and Craig Jameson, with Declan McDonnell getting as high as 17th. Further down, Darren Ball, Aaron Morgan, Chris Hack just outside the top 20. Rory Clark gets to finish this time in 28th, and Peter Dell had a cleaner run to 29th. And then we lost, unfortunately, John Watt, Daniel Devereaux and Jack Drury, but only the 3 drivers failing to make it to the finish.
Yeah, I was gunning for it. After what happened at Coombe, we only got one of them. I felt we should have done the double there. I was gunning for it this weekend, and again, testament to the team, AW Track Sport. They've done a great job on the car. They repaired it after Coombe. We've worked at it, and we deserve it, if I'm honest with you. And I just want to thank my other companies on board, JW Removals of Car Transportation, for helping us. If you need a car moving, then just call JW Removals.
So here is what the points look like leaving Donington Park. James Gornall has just a 2-point lead over Joe Wiggin, with Steve Daly third, 12 points off the lead, but any one of those top 10 drivers could still take the title.
Well, an absolutely amazing weekend's racing here at Donington for the BMW Race Day Compact Cup, and huge congratulations go to Joe Wiggin on his first double win of the championship. Join us next time when we bring you all the action from Oulton Park